Yeah, so now I'm sort of quite a schizophrenic individual in that I've got these two quite disparate jobs. I've got my traditional role, which has been as an academic in plant protection, and I've been using scenario-based learning within that role for many years, in fact, going back to the late 1980s. So quite a long time, involvement with Jeff, of course, at the centre since the early 90s. And first of all, it was just to do with plant protection, and then later on, in the grant that Jeff mentioned, it was much wider than that, education generally. So I guess I got known around Massey, and for my ills, I suppose, or as punishment, I sort of managed to get this 50% position in a Centre for Academic Development and E-Learning. So I got that position last year. It was, it was a new position. It was an E-Fellow position. I still had 50% of my teaching position present, where I gave lectures to students. When this position was negotiated, there were really three things that they wanted from me, and I was quite happy to do them. I wanted to explore this area. I'm passionate about this area, so it was really a position that pretty much I sort of cultivated and wanted to move into. So one was to build a community of interest in scenario-based learning, primarily using SBLi as the tool. And really this is to get people excited about it, talking about it, using it, talking to each other, and gradually just sort of up the visibility, not just of SBLi, but actually of scenario-based learning, per se. And also, because I'm an academic, and I'm expected to publish, publish or perish, also part of the role was to publish best practice papers or conduct a little bit of research, keep the publications going. So it was really those three things that I had to do in 2009. But this sort of e-learning fellowship occurred in the middle of a big change at Massey, a big sea change in e-learning. And that change was a change from WebCT, Blackboard, which the university decided to throw out, and bring in Moodle. So there's a lot of money allocated to this big Moodle project. Project manager was employed, and Moodle, which Massey's called Stream, and it's branded in its own colours, this is sort of going to be implemented, rolled out over Massey over about 3 or 4 years. And 2009 was the first year it was starting to be rolled out. So how did I build this community of interest? Well, I guess a little similar to what Audrey's doing here. We had informal lunchtime meetings. We tried to run them about once every fortnight. It didn't always work out that way. Sometimes it was once a month. But it was a sort of a time where most people seemed to be free. And it was very informal. So they bring their lunch along. We had a series of themes. These informal lunchtime meetings weren't broadcast to everybody. There was a select group of about 68 people that had been through an SBLi workshop, right? So they were already quite familiar with the tool, and I saw it as a way to actually get these people that had been through a basic workshop further engaged to keep going. Because it's very easy to go to a workshop, get all enthused, oh fantastic, and then you leave the workshop, and then that's it. You're on your own to sort of keep things going up. So I saw this as a way to get those people that had a bit of pre-knowledge, just sort of almost like further development. Yeah, thanks, Audrey. So what we ended up doing for the year is we had 10 meetings in all, and we tended to have quite a diverse range of topics. So we looked at things like relevant research. So as part of my job, because I was active in public research publishing, I would read the research, and if I found something that was interesting, that I thought, well, this directly relates to scenario-based learning or to this community of people who are trying to develop scenarios, then I would take that paper and I would make it into, I would present it at the lunchtime meeting, the main points, and we'd discuss it, and people would be aware of it. So we had a couple of those. We had a few show and tells where people had developed scenarios and other people could look at them, get some ideas. 1 or 2 guest speakers. Jeff Norton was one of them. Research tips, academics, publish or perish. How do we publish our teaching? So we had one lunchtime meeting on that. Some of the tips and techniques as to how you might go about publishing. How disciplined teachers might go about publishing what they've done, teaching and learning. We had a funded grant to actually have a look at other tools for scenario-based learning. Because SBLi is not the only one out there, there are a few others. And so we had a small research project where we looked at other tools, and then we discussed it, at these informal meetings. Right, thanks, Audrey. Now, the glue, I guess, that held the community together when they weren't at a meeting like this, we used a Moodle site, a stream site, and things that came out of the meeting, I tended to put up on the site. So PowerPoint slides, you can see there diagnostic schema, sort of generic schema for narrative type scenarios. These are sort of things that were sometimes developed within these meetings or with other meetings that I had with academics, and if they seemed useful, they'd go up on that site and other people could sort of download them and use them. Thanks. Then I had this other small developers group, because we had our informal meetings, but then there was a group of people that said, look, I really want to develop scenarios, I don't seem to have the time, and those people seemed to me to be key people to sort of nurture, if you like. But of course there was only one of me, and I was only part-time, and so I thought as a way to get these scenarios written is that we have a small developers group. So this is a scenario developers group where we'd meet regularly, and we started meeting once a week, and as a team we'd essentially build each other's scenarios. And when they started with the group, there had to be a commitment that they are happy to give feedback to other people, even though it's not in their discipline, okay, and bounce off, sort of give them ideas, etc. And it was experimental, so I was going to see how that went. So we had our developers group, 3 training workshops. I was responsible for informal consultancies, so people would ring up if they wanted some help. I'd try and give them the help where I could. That all contributed towards this community of learning I was trying to build up. We managed to get 36 scenarios, over 9 courses used. So I just thought I'd show you a few, just screenshots really of the scenarios that have been developed and just talk to them a little bit. Now the virtual vet hospital, that's a really interesting one. That was developed by one of our vets who came to a training course. He's a very passionate teacher, very passionate about education and learning. Didn't like the very structured way that vets were taught, so he really embraced this. And what he did is he developed this virtual vet hospital, because one of the issues with these scenarios is the time it takes to write them, as any of you that have written them will know. It takes a long time. And what he did with this is that he wanted his students to get as real a diagnostic experience as they can, particularly his final year students, because they were going to go out and they were going to be vets. And what he did is he created this template. So he built this virtual vet hospital. So in each of the rooms there are further rooms, and there's a lot of equipment and there are a lot of tests. There are hundreds of tests. And what he did with these tests is that he put default values in that you would get for a healthy animal. Right? So if something's completely healthy, you get this result. So when he came to putting a scenario in there, a diagnostic scenario, all he needed to do was to tweak the test results or the observations that fitted whatever condition that animal had. Students, when they go in here, they're faced with all the choices they would have in a vet hospital. It's up to them to decide whether it's appropriate to use them. He used this as a final year exam for his 5th year students. Now vet students are bright and they're competitive, right? And he said, okay, we're not going to have any written exam, but this is the exam, there's 3 of these. We have 3 hours, you can go through 3 of these, and I'll analyse what you've done. So he went through each log, looked at their approach, he had various feedback forms that they could type information in, and that's how he marked the exam. And he was quite ruthless in some of these scenarios. Students would be working through them in the exam, and suddenly they'd kill their animal. End of the scenario, end of that scenario, right? And as he said, this is real life. These people are going out and they're going to practice next year on cats, dogs, all sorts of things. This is what happens, And he was putting them under that pressure. And it actually, he did a survey afterwards. And yeah, the response for most students, not all of them, but for most of them was very, very positive. So it's going to be used again. It was quite an innovative thing to do.